Hey folks, this is Kalori. Welcome to Scrum and Agile Digest. So the main thing that you have to remember about a product backlog is that it's ever changing, right? It's never constant. It's a living, breathing document, and you have to keep on adding. There are more stories which will get added. You have to keep prioritizing it. It's owned by the product owner, and it'll have all the bells and whistles that can go into the product. But of course, the product owner will prioritize it according to what are the most important. And there are multiple methods available to prioritize these user stories. So when you think about the hierarchy of a product backlog, what does it have? Now, at the portfolio level, usually you will have an epic, right? So, for instance, like let's say you have an e-commerce website, you want to have an e-commerce marketplace, like Amazon, where you want to sell products. At the epic level, you might have an epic, which is like a broad vision of what you want to do, and that is sell products in the marketplace. That's an epic. That's at the portfolio level. And then at the program level, that is going to be below the epic level. You will break down the epic a little further, and you'll have features, right? By that I mean, when you said you wanted to sell a product, right? How do you want to sell it? So one feature could be sell the product via, make sure it's supported on a mobile device. Another feature could be make sure it's supported on a Android, iPhone, architecture, and another could be make sure it's supported in a tablet or a computer, different forms. And then you can drill down further at the team level, where you can have user stories for each feature. So like, for instance, if my feature is make sure that I'm able to sell my products in supported on a computer, the user story could be, make sure that you are able to create a website that is supported on the computer. Make sure that you have a cart, you have products, you have pricing, you have smart searches. Everything is supported on a regular computer browser, right? And then another feature could be that it's supported on an Android or an iPhone. So, same thing. You can have user stories which are compatible, which can be viewed, seen on an iPhone or an Android, your shopping cart, your user information, your credit card details, things like that. So basically at the top level, you have an epic for the product backlog. And then you can have, that's at the portfolio level. And then at the program level, you have features which you have drilled down further. And then at the team level, you have user stories, which are, drilled down further. And then user stories can be drilled down further into tasks. And these tasks are the ones which are estimated by the team. And they are usually, you should be able to do it in a couple of days, or in a certain number of hours. And these tasks should fit in a particular iteration. So this is kind of the hierarchy of a product backlog. Now, product backlog, it has to be detailed appropriately. It shouldn't be vague. It should have all expectations, validations, and logic. It should be fully prioritized, so you can have effective user stories out of it. You might even have bugs, defects out of them. And then, it's the product backlog refinement process, which the product owner has to carry out. And this should happen before a sprint starts. Before the sprint planning meeting, you should have a prioritized backlog with you. And, there's many factors which will affect prioritization of user stories. There'll be customer satisfactions, obviously, whatever stories are higher customer satisfaction, they go high up on the product backlog. Whichever has higher business value goes up on the backlog. Or let's say you have more affected users, or the frequency of the product is more, it has more demand, and it goes high up on the backlog. Then you have to look at complexity, risks, and opportunity, cost. Every user story is going to have a cost and it's going to have a ROI, return on investment. Anything that is a low cost and a high return on investment should always be top priority. And similarly, anything which is a high cost but low return on investment should be lower priority. And it's not always very cut and dry, but because there are shared costs between organization. But you have to. It's the product owners' intelligence, and they have to strategically look at which ones are more important and which ones need to be prioritized. It's not always easy to just put a number on a story and say, hey, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. It's not always that easy. So, like we talked about the hierarchy, on top we'll have the epics. It's also called the themes. Sometimes it'll be like large user stories or a group of user stories. And then you'll have features below that, and then user stories, and then tasks. So, sometimes in some teams for the product backlog refinement, also the rest of the team can meet along with the product owners. And they can also help in grooming, but usually it is the product owner's document, and they have to make sure all the unknowns and uncertainties are removed from the stories. And there are multiple ways you can write user stories, right, to make sure it's not vague, it's transparent. There is invest principle, and we'll talk more about this later, and there's SMART principle, and these are just acronyms for what you can keep in mind or to make sure the stories are well written. There are 3 C's. So the bottom line is it should be clear enough. It should have a good vision statement. It should be clear enough that the developer, the team, is able to understand it, estimate it, work on it, and you get the right product. And as long as the backlog items are prioritized and defined, they can go into a sprint and they can be worked on. If it's not prioritized, it's in progress, it has to remain in the product backlog, right? You cannot work on it. The team doesn't have the capability of working on it.